You can see that these broad beans are almost as tall as Mrs. W. But actually, that's not too difficult. In today's video, I have 5 seeds that you could be sowing in May week 3. And 1 plant that you can transplant into your plots in May week 3. We often talk about succession plantings and what you have to eat in your garden now at this time of the year. It's known as the hungry gap because there's not too much in your plots that's ready for you to take a harvest from. For myself and Mrs. W, we have the asparagus, we have the new potatoes. They've been absolutely amazing.
They have. Delicious, yeah.
We have cauliflower. We're on the last plant of our purple sprouting broccoli. That will be finished this week and we shall have that last plant out of the ground. We also have some carrots that we overwintered that we can enjoy, and of course we have those lovely spring onions, salad onions that I sowed all the way back right at the very end of last August and have given us that lovely onion taste. But with your broad beans, now you have an extra vegetable to eat. Just like you can eat the pea tops, you pinch them out. Some people grow them and pinch the tops out and use them in salads. So you can eat the tops of your broad beans. Mrs. W has a really lovely recipe, don't you, Mrs. W?
I do. It's a really simple way that I cook them. I simply saute them in a little bit of butter, garlic and salt and pepper. Really lovely. They don't need a lot of cooking. They're just like a little wilted spinach type vegetable. Nice flavour, really nice flavour. Yeah. Obviously, you wouldn't do that if the tops of your broad beans had black fly.
No. But these are clean, and actually they do taste amazing.
They do. And
of course, when I talked about what we still have to eat, of course we still have lots of garlic. That was harvested last July. It's a great way to use it to flavour these things and all the lovely harvest that you can get. So we're back in the polytunnel and it's time to begin sowing seeds for May week 3. Now I thought I'd just show you exactly what I've been doing over the last few months. We've been experimenting by using different mixes to actually not just sow our seeds into, but also what we then pot them on into for anything that you need to pot on. You know that we've been using the fertile fibre compost, and it's great compost. But what I've been doing, by volume, I've been putting 4 of these of the fertile fibre in, and then 2 of the leaf mould. Now the leaf mould is really quite good. A lot of you have been saying you've been having trouble with your seedlings. And what I've really found with this is that it holds onto the moisture really well. So you haven't got to water them every single day, which only increases the chances of your seedlings dampening off. This really helps because the leaf mould will hold on to it. And then just to help that even further, I put 1 pot by volume of perlite into the mix. You can see it's a bit sticky at the moment. That's because I've watered it, because it is full of dust. And I don't really want that all up my nose. And all we do is give it a mix together. Now the leaf mould is sieved because when we actually go and pick the leaves, there are twigs and all sorts of things in it. And we use our finest sieve for that, and the finest sieve we have is 4mm. But you can see there's no big sticks in here whatsoever. The perlite, that will open up the mix so that the roots have channels to be able to grow in. And then by doing this, of course, you've effectively doubled the amount of potting mix that you have. Well, that leaf mould has turned out just that little bit darker, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
It really has. You
Yeah.
can see that quite clearly. Now, when it comes to, if we want to pot something on, because that plant is now established now, I add one of these by volume of our worm compost that we've been making. And that's full of nutrients that keeps the plants going. And you can see here with our peppers and tomatoes, they all went into the mix with the worm compost. And I have to say they are some of the best peppers and tomatoes that we have ever raised. First thing I'm going to do is to sow some more lettuce. You can see here in these raised beds that our lettuce are now just about ready, and that means that it's time for us to be thinking of doing some succession sowings of our lettuce so that they can then follow on. I'm going to sow them into a tray. This tray we've put holes into the bottom so that there's drainage, and I've divided it up into 3 just using some old seed labels. And Mrs. W has done this up very well.
Well, I kept opening up. If that's any criticism I have of the Premier Seeds packets, is that you can't seal them back up again and you can't fold them over very well to keep them in. So
No, I would say the same, yeah. I totally agree.
yeah.
Now, this is a variety called Little Gem. The other thing I would say is that even worse is when they put these in these plastic packets, because trying to actually get into them is really quite difficult. Especially when you're my age and you need to wear glasses, really. But Mrs. W always thinks of the song You're So Vain.
Yes, that is your song. Definitely.
Is that Carly Simons, was it?
Yes, yeah. I love that song, actually. At least with that packet, though, you can seal it up. So that yeah.
That's true. And then the last variety will be the Lollo Rossa. We absolutely love these, don't we, hey? Slightly bitter than the normal lettuce, but really goes well when you mix the two together.
Yeah, put a bit of colour on your plate. And in the garden as well. I love to see the different colours of the lettuce growing together.
Got to tell you, folks, she loves to see them go to seed.
I do. They look
like
like
red Christmas trees, don't they? See, I know you. And then we can just cover those over with a bit of vermiculite. They don't need a lot. This time of the year, lettuce will readily germinate. Once it gets really, really hot, then you start to have a problem because it doesn't like the hot temperatures. But what I'm going to do is to put this into this water bath here that you can see and let that suck up the water. And then what I'm going to actually do is to put them outside. Mrs. W's made a nice bench outside where we can put these types of plants. I wouldn't do it with brassicas, of course, because the weather has actually been really quite warm here in the UK. And I've seen the white cabbage butterfly. So always keep them covered as young seedlings, otherwise they'll lay their eggs. And I don't want you to have the same fate as myself. I did that one year. We went away one year, didn't we? I think it was my mother's 80th, wasn't it? We left the plants out. We came back, planted them into the ground. They're perfectly fine when we got back. 2 months later, the leaves were all being eaten because they'd laid some eggs on it. So always keep your brassicas covered at this time of the year. Lettuce, absolutely fine. Now, the next thing I want to do is to do a succession sowing of brassicas, talking of brassicas. Now, if you remember last month, we actually did our first succession sowing of brassicas, and they were going to be the ones that we'll eat in September and October. Now what we want to do a month later, 3 weeks to 4 weeks or so, we now want to sow the ones that we're going to eat in November and December. So just dip some holes with my fingers. First thing we're going to start with is some cauliflower. This is a variety called Excel. I'm going to sow 5 cells of these, and I'm putting 2 seeds per cell. And then for later on in the year, rather than best of all, I want to sow the cabbage perfection. We did actually sow some last month, but for some reason they never came on. We actually did get some germination, but they quickly died. I'm wondering if it was slugs. There's no telling.
It did seem a bit strange though, because the rest of the tray, because we like
It's
we're
been
doing
fine,
now,
hasn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're just going to try it again, see if the seed is any better this time.
So that's those. And we'll soon find out if the seed was viable or not, because if the same thing happens again, we know we've got a problem there.
Yeah.
And then, just as usual, get some vermiculite on that. Now I am actually going to sow some cabbage best of all, just in case these cabbage actually don't do very well, because they will also grow at that time of the year. And really, gardening is all about timing a lot of the time. When you're going to time, when you're going to sow something. Something maybe didn't quite work, maybe we try something just a little different. So in my case, I'm going to sow some best of all, because I know they will keep in the ground. And I can cover myself then, so that if these other perfection don't come through, I've got a backup plan for those. For those of you who have been watching our channel for some time, you will know that last year I sowed a variety called Triumphant. It's a cauliflower, and it's known as the Christmas cauliflower. It normally comes ready in December and January. Ours didn't come ready in December. They weren't too far after, they were towards the end of January. And I said at the time that I've made a note of that. This year I'm going to move the sowing dates forward 3 to 4 weeks. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. They're really quite valuable, this variety is, because you don't get many cauliflowers that are ready at that time of the year. You will get them before that, you will get them after that, as you can see in our garden where I've been harvesting them. But round about December and early January is a time when you don't get so many, or at least so many varieties. So I find this a really valuable variety. And that's really how you need to think to yourself. You know, a planner, a journal, they're really good for reminding you about things like succession sowing. They remind you of what happened last year. And you saw me right at the beginning of the year sitting on the bench, and I was making a plan of our garden, what was going to go where and what was going to follow it. Because then you have a clear but also flexible plan. Weather patterns change. This year it's been absolutely gorgeous and everything is just growing rampantly. Last year it wasn't the case so much. Things were very slow because it was cold, it was damp, there was very little sunlight. So it just helps to remind you of what happened the previous year and what you might need to do just to make those fine adjustments in order that you get the harvest you want when you want them. And then of course my backup sowing, which is Savoy cabbage best of all. And then a different kind of succession sowing. This is something we're going to be eating very quickly, whereas the brassicas, we're not going to eat them until autumn of this year. And that's spring or salad onions, however you think of them. You saw that I planted some out in the last video. That now means that I need to sow some more. And that's how I tend to think of things like onions and lettuce, radish, anything like that. As soon as I actually plant something, I then look to sow the next lot. And you just keep that succession going and that continuity
It's your favourite word.
It is, Mrs. W. Of harvest. And this is the variety Lilia. And then I'm sowing some Ishikura Now I do like this one. I've grown this for many years now. Now while I am just sowing these, what I would like to say is that the Malvern Spring Show was really very good. We so enjoyed ourselves, didn't we, Mrs. W?
Yeah.
And thanks to you all for sort of saying, you know, your comments about, you know, relax, have a good time. That's exactly what we did, didn't we?
Yes. And we had perfect weather. It was
yes.
a lovely, lovely day.
We had some wonderful company because we actually met up with Ken and Karen, didn't we?
Yeah.
Who watch our channel, and we also got to meet their beautiful daughter as well.
Yes, we did.
And she has the vegetable gardening bug too, doesn't she?
She does. Good for her.
So,
Well, I think she's a bit more flower gardening, but hey ho, any gardening is good.
oh yes. And remember right at the beginning of the video, we were harvesting the broad bean tips. The truck I was using, we bought from there as well.
We did.
Didn't we?
Yeah, found that on a little stall. Quite like that one.
Yep. So, as well as meeting lots and lots of lovely people along the way. One of the things I always like to do at this time of the year, or whenever it's really hot, is to water the planting holes first. Gets the plants off to a good start. And in the case here, we're actually going to be planting out some Marketmore cucumbers, which are outdoor cucumbers. And I think it was in the last video I said Mrs. W needs to make a structure for them before we can plant them. That was after we did the courgettes. And what she has done, she's repurposed actually our granddaughter's cot. That's what the cucumbers are going to grow up. She doesn't have it anymore. She's approaching 3 years old now, isn't she? Later on in November.
Out of her cot, and the cot had got damaged anyway, so it couldn't be reused as a cot. So we've done a quick repair on the side, and it's going to be a cucumber frame.
Oh yes. So it just goes to show you don't need to spend vast amounts of money. You can generally find something in or around your garden or your allotment that you can use to, well, repurpose really. And as I say, in the case of this, it's what the cucumbers are going to grow up. Now, the idea is that the foliage grows up here, and then the cucumbers, as they begin to form, they drop over this side. That's the theory. We'll see how it goes.
And I've purposely angled it in this direction, so it's facing south, because the plants will grow in that direction towards the sun.
Well, they're after a good start, Mrs. W, because they have
Brilliant.
a wonderful root system. Now, with cucumbers, you can just plant them up to the same depth that they were in. But what I am doing, as you can see, I've made sure that the plant is angled towards the structure. In that way, as they send out their tendrils, they'll climb on and start to grow all the way up. Hello, Poppy. If you come to see what we're doing. Hello, old girl. How are you? Hey, you all right? I just need to get this other cucumber in the soil. Yeah.
I think she missed us when we went to Malvern.
I think you're right. So there you go. Once again, just angle that towards the structure. It won't take very long before it's here, and it'll send out its tendrils, and it will pull itself up over this structure. Now, one thing I would say is that it's a good time to be planting these out now, and we know that the weather is really good. But if we do suddenly get some very cold nights that would suddenly come in the second half of May, what I will do is just put a bit of fleece over there and wrap it around so that they don't suffer too much. And just like all cucumbers, keep them well watered. Remember, a cucumber is, I don't know what the percentage is, but it must be 98% water.
It's a lot of water.
So keep them well watered. They suffer if they go dry. And I wanted to show you this because we were thinking, well, we probably really don't have the room this year to do outdoor cucumbers. But I want to show you that you can do them. I know you often see me in the polytunnel or the greenhouse. We're very lucky. We've got these undercover structures. But you can eat things like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, all of these things, and aubergines too. You can eat them or grow them outside. You've missed us too, have you? Yes. Looking very healthy on it though.
Oh, and here comes Jelly Belly
Here comes
Poppy.
the other one. Come on, you going to come up here? Good girl. I just wanted to show you a bit of film here of our overwintering onions. So it's we're right at the very end of the second week of May as we're filming this. And you can see here that they're now beginning to actually bulb up. You don't often get footage of that. You can see just how the onion behaves. It's a variety called Globu. You can see here in this bed that we have the ones that we sowed back in January. They'll give us a harvest in July. But the onions you see in the polytunnel, they're about 2 to 3 weeks from giving us their harvest right at the beginning of June. So this harvest of spring onions that we took today, they're only going to last us a few more weeks. And there's more than enough there, as you can see. You can see in the harvest box that we have an amazing cauliflower. We have the potatoes that are harvested. They're a variety called Swift. They're ready really very quickly. They spent the first part of, or the last part of winter and the first part of spring in our polytunnel. They came out, what would you say, Mrs. W, 4 weeks ago?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. And continued their growth because there was no more danger of frost. And we're enjoying lovely potatoes right here, right now. We're not waiting until June. We're not waiting until July. We've been eating lovely new potatoes since the very end of April. Do leave us a comment and let us know what you're planting out during May week 3. We always love to get your comments. Some of you, of course, may now only be planting out some of the warmth-loving plants. And of course, they include things like tomatoes and peppers. If you're now planting out and you want some tips to do that, my tips for planting out your tomatoes. Watch this video next. Have a great rest of your gardening week, and we shall see you on the next one.